You are not unlucky in love. The universe is not punishing you. You are not the victim of a cruel romantic curse, and you are not fundamentally broken. You are simply dangerously, biologically and psychologically predictable. Welcome back to the Conscious Chamber. Today, we are going to tear up the floorboards of your mind. We are going to examine the exact psychological blueprints that cause you to repeatedly, willingly walk into burning buildings and call the fire warmth. Think about your relationship history. Think about the nights spent staring at the ceiling, your chest tight with anxiety, wondering why you are trapped in the exact same toxic dynamic, having the exact same argument, just with a different face. Society tells you to simply look out for red flags. They tell you to just choose better. They treat love like a logical grocery list. But what happens when your own brain is colorblind? And what happens when your nervous system is literally wired to crave the exact poison that is killing you? To understand why you fall for the wrong person, we cannot look at them. Their toxicity is irrelevant. We must look at you. We must travel back to the moment your emotional matrix was written and chronologically trace the 8 hidden traps that guarantee your heartbreak. We are going to dissect the ancient myths, the biological casinos, and the repressed shadows that are pulling your strings. Prepare yourself. The illusion is about to fracture. Pillar 1, the trap of familiarity, the childhood matrix. Let us start at the very foundation. The childhood matrix. I will make this so simple a child could understand it, because a frightened, unhealed child is exactly who is running your adult love life. Imagine a child who grows up in a house built directly next to a deafening, chaotic train station. For years, the house shakes. The noise is terrifying, and the environment is highly unpredictable. But the human brain is a survival engine. Eventually, the child's brain adapts to the trauma. The chaos becomes normal. The shaking floorboards become their baseline for reality. Now imagine taking that child 20 years later and putting them in a completely silent, peaceful cabin in the woods. How do they feel? Do they feel relaxed? Do they feel grateful for the peace? Absolutely not. They feel terrified. The silence is deafening. Their nervous system screams that something is wrong. They wonder where the train is. They cannot sleep because they are waiting for the floor to shake. Philosopher Alain de Botton and psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud uncovered a brutal, uncomfortable truth about human nature. We're not actually looking for happiness. We are looking for familiarity. Freud called this repetition, compulsion. If you had a parent who was emotionally distant, highly critical, unpredictable, or abusive, your brain wrote a biological blueprint that said, this is what love feels like. Love is something I have to beg for. Love is anxious. Love is a game of survival. Let us look at how this plays out in your real life. You go on a date with a genuinely healthy, consistent person. They text you back immediately. They say exactly what they mean. They do not play psychological games. They offer you the peaceful cabin in the woods. What happens? Your brain panics. You tell your friends that they are great on paper, but there is just no spark. It feels boring. You might even subconsciously pick a fight with them just to see if they will yell at you, just to make the floor shake again. Then you meet someone who leaves you on red for 2 days. Someone who is mysterious, hot and cold, and makes you constantly guess where you stand. Instantly your chest tightens. You feel butterflies in your stomach. You call it chemistry. I need you to listen to me very carefully. That is not chemistry. That is anxiety. Your nervous system has recognized the familiar chaos of your childhood. You are trying to date a toxic person, so you can finally win the love you were denied as a child. You are trying to retroactively fix your past by controlling your present. You are sprinting back into the burning building because the fire feels like home. Pillar 2. The anxious-avoidant casino, the biological trap. Because of this deeply ingrained childhood blueprint, we enter adulthood and immediately fall into the most dangerous psychological dance in human history, the anxious-avoidant loop. Psychologists John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth mapped out human attachment, and they revealed a terrifying biological trap. If your early care was inconsistent, You likely developed an anxious attachment style. Your core subconscious fear is abandonment. You constantly need reassurance to feel safe. On the flip side, if your early care was suffocating, highly critical, or emotionally barren, you developed an avoidant attachment style. Your core fear is losing your independence. You pull away when intimacy gets too close. The anxious person and the avoidant person are magnetically drawn to each other like a moth to an open flame. Why? Because they perfectly, tragically confirm each other's deepest insecurities. The avoidant confirms the anxious person's absolute terror that everyone will eventually leave them. The anxious confirms the avoidant's absolute terror that everyone wants to trap and suffocate them. It is a perfectly engineered psychological torture chamber. Think of it like a biological casino. The avoidant partner acts exactly like a broken slot machine. On Monday, they give you a jackpot of affection. They look into your eyes and tell you that you are the only one for them. On Tuesday, they pull away, stop texting, and go completely cold. The anxious partner's brain immediately panics. Cortisol floods their system. They pull the lever again and again. They send triple texts. They check social media statuses. They desperately try to get the affection back. They go into literal physical withdrawal, no different than a drug addict denied a fix. When the avoidant finally replies 3 days later with a single, lukewarm breadcrumb of validation, a basic text message, a massive, overwhelming hit of dopamine, floods the anxious partner's brain. You mistake the sheer terror of their withdrawal and the euphoric relief of their return as earth-shattering passion. You believe that because it hurts so much, it must be true love. You are not experiencing deep love. You are experiencing a trauma bond. You are an addict standing at a broken slot machine, entirely convinced that the machine loves you, and the machine will bleed you dry until you have nothing left to give. Pillar 3, the soulmate myth, the illusion of completion. Now you take this wounded, addicted inner child and you send them out into the dating world. And here, they encounter the most dangerous cultural lie ever engineered by human society, the myth of the soulmate. In his work, The Symposium, the ancient philosopher Plato shared a powerful myth. He said that humans were originally created with 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces. The gods, terrified of our immense power and unity, split us in half with a lightning bolt. Ever since that day, humans have wandered the earth, bleeding, desperate and incomplete, frantically searching for our other half to finally feel whole. Again, modern movies, songs, and romantic comedies have weaponized this ancient myth against you. They have sold you a lie. They tell you to look deep into someone's eyes and say, "You complete me." They teach you to sing, "I am nothing without you." This is a devastating psychological trap. If you fundamentally believe you are only half of a person, you are walking into the negotiation of love already completely bankrupt. You are operating from a massive deficit. Imagine building a heavy concrete bridge over a massive deep canyon. You build your half of the bridge, but you refuse to put support pillars underneath it because you believe you are only a half. You desperately look for someone to build the other half to hold your weight. When someone finally connects to you, you grip them so tightly with such suffocating neediness that the entire structure inevitably collapses under the weight of your desperation. When you believe the soulmate myth, you will tolerate absolute abuse. You will tolerate disrespect, infidelity, and toxicity from the completely wrong person simply because you are terrified of returning to being a half. You accept drinking poison because your culture has convinced you it is the only medicine that makes you whole. 2 halves do not make a whole in reality. They just make a codependent disaster. True love requires 2 complete, independent pillars, choosing to bear the heavy weight of reality together. Pillar 4, the hierarchy of deception, the illusion of depth. Because you are operating from this psychological deficit, you drastically misclassify what you are actually feeling. The great philosopher Aristotle warned us about this exact failure of human perception over 2,000 years ago. Aristotle stated that there are 3 types of love: and most of humanity is trapped in the bottom two. Number one is the love of utility. I love what you can do for me. You pay my rent, you give me social status, you cure my weekend boredom, you make me look successful to my peers. Number two is the love of pleasure. I love how you make me feel. The dopamine hit, the physical attraction, the adrenaline of the chase, the temporary high of your attention. Number three is the love of virtue. I love your actual character. I love your soul, your integrity, your resilience, and I actively choose to build a shared reality with you, even when it is not fun. People fall for the wrong person because they build a house entirely out of sugar, utility and pleasure, and then they act completely shocked when it melts in the first rainstorm. Let us look at your real life. You meet a man who buys you expensive dinners, drives a luxury car, and makes your lifestyle look incredibly glamorous on social media. That is utility and pleasure. You meet a woman who is wildly unpredictable, physically stunning, and gives you incredible emotional highs and agonizing lows. That is pleasure. You fall for the wrong person because your ego is being stroked, and you slap the sacred, heavy label of soulmate onto a cheap transactional exchange. You mistake the frosting for the cake. But what happens when the money runs out? What happens when the physical looks fade? What happens when you lose your job or you get sick and you actually need a partner to carry the weight? The transaction ends. The sugar house dissolves into nothing. You are left standing in the rain, wondering why your soulmate abandoned you. I will tell you the brutal truth. They did not abandon you. They just finished using you, and you finished using them. You never had a foundation to begin with. Pillar 5, the shadow mirror, falling for the repressed self. But why are the inherently good people so often drawn to the absolutely bad ones? Why does the straight-A student, the valedictorian, fall for the criminal? Why does the quiet, rule-following, hyper-responsible accountant fall for the chaotic, unpredictable artist who ruins their credit score and destroys their peace? Psychiatrist Carl Jung unlocked this mystery, and it is a bitter pill to swallow. He called it the shadow, your rebellion, your anger, and your dark, primal desires, and you stuffed them into a psychological basement. You locked the door. That basement is your shadow. From the moment you were a child, society told you to cut off parts of yourself in order to be accepted. Be quiet, be polite, follow the rules. Do not be angry. Do not be loud. Do not be selfish. Put everyone else first. You took all your wildness, but the shadow cannot be destroyed. It demands to be seen. When you meet someone who boldly, unapologetically acts out the very traits you have repressed in yourself, you become intensely, uncontrollably magnetized to them. You are projecting your own unlived life onto them. The rigid rule follower does not actually love the lawbreaker. They just secretly, desperately want to be them. The chronic people pleaser falls deeply in love with the extreme narcissist because the narcissist has the audacity to say no and put themselves first, something the people pleaser is too terrified to ever do. You fall for the toxic, chaotic person because you are outsourcing your own rebellion. You hire them to be the wild part of your personality, and when they inevitably bring chaos into your life, when they break the laws, embarrass you, and shatter your carefully constructed peace, you cry and play the victim. You ask, how could they do this to me? They did not do it to you. They did exactly what you hired them to do. They are not your lover. They are your mirror. You fell in love with your own darkness. Pillar 6, the phantom of desire, chasing the void. Psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan takes this concept one step further into the abyss. Lacan taught a terrifying concept. Human desire is essentially a fraud. We do not actually want the person we are chasing. We are chasing an impossible, unattainable phantom that represents a fundamental emptiness inside us. We desire the feeling of desiring. This is exactly why you fall for emotionally unavailable people. This is why you obsess over the married boss, the person who lives in another country, the person who explicitly tells you to your face that they do not want a relationship and cannot give you what you need. Their unavailability is not a hurdle. It is the exact reason you want them. The barrier is the attraction. Because they are distant, because you cannot actually have them, they remain a pristine blank canvas. You are like a movie director, projecting a perfect, flawless script onto a terrible actor. You can paint all your perfect fantasies onto them because they aren't close enough to ruin your fantasy with their actual flawed, annoying human personality. Think of a dog chasing a speeding car. The thrill is entirely in the chase. The adrenaline, the running, the wind in its fur, the pursuit of the impossible. But if the car suddenly stops, opens the door, and the dog catches the bumper, what happens? The dog is entirely confused. It does not know how to drive a car. The game is over. If that emotionally unavailable person you have been crying over for 2 years suddenly turned around, gave you absolutely everything you wanted and said, "I am yours. Let's get married tomorrow," your intense desire would evaporate overnight. You would suddenly find them clingy, needy, or boring. You would look for an exit. You do not love them. You are just addicted to the act of yearning because true, vulnerable intimacy actually terrifies you. Pillar 7, the savior complex, the narcissism of rescue. So you have chosen the familiar chaos. You have projected your shadow. You have chased the phantom. And now you are fully trapped in the toxic relationship. They are treating you terribly. Your friends are begging you to leave. Why don't you walk away? Because you have convinced yourself that you are a hero. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche argued that much of what humans call pity or altruism is actually a deeply masked, dark desire for power. Dr. Stephen Karpman mapped this exact dynamic out in the famous drama triangle. You find someone who is broken, an addict, someone who refuses to get a job, someone who constantly cheats but always cries and apologizes, someone emotionally crippled. You look at them and you tell yourself, "My love will fix them. I am the only one in the world who truly understands their pain. If I just love them hard enough, if I sacrifice enough of myself, they will eventually change." Let me give you the brutal truth of the conscious chamber. This is the ultimate narcissism disguised as virtue. Fixing someone else is the easiest, most effective way to distract yourself from looking in the mirror and fixing your own broken life. As long as you are the rescuer, you are in a position of moral superiority. You hold the power. You secretly want them to remain somewhat broken and need you, because if they are entirely dependent on you, they cannot abandon you. But it is a fatal trap. The drama triangle always spins. The rescuer eventually becomes exhausted by the victim's absolute refusal to change. You give them your money, your time, your youth, your sanity, and they still betray you. The rescuer then becomes fiercely resentful, turning into the persecutor. You start screaming at them, "After all I've done for you, after everything I sacrificed, this is how you treat me." You do not love them. You love the feeling of being needed. Your identity, your ego, and your self-worth are entirely dependent on them remaining a project. You did not want a partner. You wanted a patient. Pillar 8, the slavery of passions, the final awakening. We have finally reached the end of the chronological trap, the final lock on the prison door of your own mind. The great rationalist philosopher Baruch Spinoza gave us the ultimate key to escape this matrix. Spinoza stated that humans are entirely enslaved by what he called passive emotions, infatuation, fear, lust, anxiety, and jealousy. As long as we do not rationally, logically understand why we are feeling these things, we are just puppets on strings, reacting blindly to whoever pulls our biological and psychological levers. When you sit there and proudly declare, "I can't help who I fall for," or you quote poetry and say, "The heart wants what it wants," you are proudly, loudly admitting that you are a slave. You are letting your unhealed childhood wounds, your biological casino, and your repressed shadow drive the car of your life at 100 miles an hour, and you are acting completely surprised when you crash headfirst into a concrete wall. Spinoza taught that the moment you apply pure logic to an emotion, the moment you understand the hidden mechanics behind your attraction, it ceases to be a passive passion. It becomes an active choice. Logic is the only weapon sharp enough to cut the puppet strings. mirror is now fully shattered. You now possess the architectural blueprints of your own self-sabotage. You know exactly why the nice guy bores you to tears. You know exactly why the toxic woman thrills you to your core. You know why you desperately try to fix the broken, why you chase the unavailable ghosts, and why you consistently mistake the adrenaline of a slot machine for the safety of a home. You are no longer blind. Ignorance is no longer an excuse you can use to defend your bad choices. If you choose to walk back into the toxic cycle tomorrow, you are doing it with your eyes wide open. You are actively choosing the illusion. But if you are ready to build something real, if you are ready to lay cold, heavy, unromantic bricks of discipline and truth, if you are ready to step out of the matrix of your own trauma, you must stop letting your wounded inner child dictate your adult reality. The take-home points, the laws of escape. Write these 5 laws into your mind and do not forget them. Law 1. Peace is not boredom. It is safety. Stop rejecting healthy people just because they do not trigger your childhood trauma. You must actively, consciously rewire your nervous system to accept calm. When the nice person texts you back, do not run, stay, breathe, let the peace settle. Learn to live outside the fire. Law 2, you are a whole structure, not a half. Enter relationships to share your foundation, not to find someone to hold you up. Neediness breeds tolerance for abuse. If you cannot stand firmly on your own 2 feet in the dark, you have absolutely no business inviting someone else into your house. Law 3, stop outsourcing your shadow. If you want a wild, rebellious, or exciting life, build the courage to live it yourself. Do not hire a chaotic partner to live it for you, and then complain when they inevitably destroy your peace. Integrate your own darkness so you stop seeking it in predators. Law 4, you are not a savior. You cannot love the sickness out of someone. If you are constantly trying to fix your partner, you are using them to distract from your own brokenness. Lay down the tools of a rescuer, step off your pedestal, and pick up the mirror of self-reflection. Law 5, the barrier is not the attraction. Stop chasing ghosts. If they are emotionally unavailable, walk away immediately. True love requires 2 people standing in the harsh light of reality, rolling up their sleeves and doing the brutal, daily work of building a life together. Master your internal programming. Step out of the hallucination. Welcome deeper into the conscious chamber.